Hello, everybody. Eric Foster, co-founder of the Future Today and Tomorrow Super PAC. Wanted to kind of touch on something that I've seen recently heavily a lot in campaign ads, as well as in political discourse, and it's taxation. Now, here's a reality. Taxes are important. Taxes give money to the government to provide services that the government only can provide, that you can't have provided by the private sector. And that's a reality and that's a fact. You pay them and hope that the money is spent well. You hope that your elected officials make the right decisions. And if they don't, you fire them and hire others when it comes time for election. They appoint people, which is what they're supposed to do. You know, you hear people with the, oh, I don't like these unelected bureaucrats. Well, you know what? Those bureaucrats got jobs because one, they either were appointed by the elected official to that job, or they qualified based on their professional background, their experience, their passing of tests, and the job responsibilities that were laid out for that particular position. So they're not unelected. They're people that are part of the system that doesn't require an election, but also does require structure provided by the elected officials. So if you don't like that, change the elected officials. But we have to pay, and we've been in now a 50 plus year cycle of taxes and taxation are bad. And that's got to stop. So, touch on a few points. So, right now, California, New York City, a few other states are looking at a billionaire's wealth tax. Now, some of the billionaires are sitting out here screaming, talking about, oh no, that would, if you do that, I'm going to leave your state. Why? You're a billionaire. Paying an extra 500,000, an extra million, an extra 1.5 million, you're a fucking billionaire. It's okay because that money is going to go into things that are going to help other people who aren't billionaires. Don't tell me how much you love the world and you're trying to make things a better place and you don't want to pay a little bit more to help make it better. You've been blessed. Now bless other people, damn it. Get off your ass and stop with this bullshit. Excuse me, I'm sorry. But you got to stop with this whole thing of, oh, well, if they want to tax me a little bit more, I'm going to run. Because here's the thing, the money that you pay extra can help with health care for those who aren't billionaires. The money you pay a little extra can help with roads. It can help with funding in areas that can help improve education, that can help address medical ailments that may be specific to different communities, that can help with our energy consumption and utilities. There's so much good that comes from that until your belief that somehow less is better is antithetical to a giving world, a responsible society, a responsible country. It's the opposite. So stop it. Now, those who are promoting these need to speak a little bit different because one, you need to talk better about the real tangible positive impacts that can come from the extra investment, the extra money, and where it can go and how it can improve the daily life, as I have in a quotient factor, quality of daily living categories of how this will possibly improve an individual's life, be it if they're a single individual or if they're a family married with no kids or married with kids or they're a single parent with kids. You have to put this in terms of how what you're asking for is going to help that majority in ways that will reduce what they have to spend, that will give them more money to invest in themselves. It's not a bad thing, but it's all about how you tell people, the voting majority, how it's going to work. And then to the billionaires, it's the framework of, you really think that starving these benefits, these things that can help your customers, is going to make you more money? It's actually going to cost you money. Your cheapness is going to rob you of extra income down the road. Your investment will increase your income. Paying more will help because more will get spread. It will help others who aren't billionaires have more to spend more. And typically, you as a billionaire own something that they buy. So it's all about the positive upswing of economic activity. This is a good thing. Now, that's one part. You know, the billionaire tax or multimillionaire tax, those are things that are critical. But also, you have in political conversation a conversation about tax cuts. Now, here's the problem with tax cuts by itself. Tax cuts by themselves are dumb. Now, you might say, well, a tax cut might give me, a little extra money. Have you actually analyzed your salary and income from 2025 to 2026 to see what the, as I call it, the Fuck Over America Act of 2025, also known as the BBBL tax plan that was passed by MAGA in Congress, what that actually has done in terms of your monthly income? If you're making less than $100,000 a year, has your monthly income increased because of that? Has your amount of money at the end of the month in your checking or savings or investment accounts been higher than what it was the previous month? Wait. Because if it hasn't, then that means that you have been scammed. Because ultimately, while that tax cut sounds like a good idea, the actual impact of that tax cut is not going to you. Your taxes are still effectively going out the same, or your overall cost of living is becoming more expensive because certain things that those taxes funded, which now aren't funded, end up costing more. Let's take education as a good example. Now, I'm a child of the 70s. I personally didn't go to public school, but most of my cousins did, and my brother did. Now, my brother's younger than me, so he's a child of the 80s. But being a child of the 70s, when you went to school, be it if it was parochial, if it was private, or it was public, your parents really didn't have to spend nearly as much on school supplies, and other related materials as they do now. The schools used to have more money for that because understanding that the households that the children came from are not all the same. But as we've been in this cut mode since roughly 1979, the amount of inflow of money to school districts has not stayed the same as the cost of stuff, rate of inflation. And so schools, by the time I became a parent, we would get these long lists of items that the school was asking us to provide for our children. Now, in the 70s, and for those older than me, you know that wasn't the case because the school districts had more money. But now, when you've cut them off and effectively they haven't had a raise since 1979, now they need you to spend more for your child to go there. So I say again, that tax cut, has it increased the amount of money you have in your checking account or savings account at the end of February than you had at the beginning of February? What about January? Did you have more in your accounts at the end of January than you did at the beginning? If you didn't, that tax cut wasn't for you and it failed you. You got to put it in these terms because here's the other side. Well, why does government need those dollars? Well, government needs those dollars because, in effect, for the services that it provides, that in a lot of instances reduces what you would have to spend on, going back to my education example. Government hasn't gotten a raise really since 1979. So imagine this. You're a auto worker or manufacturing worker, a coal miner, a farmer, a white collar business professional. In 1950, you were making the equivalent of $60,000 a year. Now, I mean, 1979. Now, 1979 at $60,000 a year equivalent, you could have a home, probably a second home that was a vacation home, maybe a boat, a couple cars, and pay a significant portion of your child's college education if they were going to college. But now it's 2026, and you effectively haven't gotten a raise except for there was the time during President Clinton when the effective tax rate went back up in 93 and went from, I think it was from 93 to roughly 99. So there was a little bit, it was still below what the cost of actual living was, but there was a little bit of increase to that income for that government person. But ultimately, for most of the past 50 plus years, government hasn't gotten a raise outside of that short period when President Clinton was in office. I'm sorry, it was 94 through about 2001. Well, the problem with that is now you're effectively asking that person who now is making $70,000 because of that brief period from 94 to 2001, you're asking them to effectively still have that second home, have multiple cars, that boat, and to be paying the majority of their child's college education. That shit doesn't work. They can't afford it because the cost of everything else has went up. Well, that's government. The cost of things from employees technology, parts, materials, vehicles, etc., has all went up substantially since 1979, but the inflow of money has effectively been frozen. And you're asking that person to still do the same things that they did in 1979? That's crazy and foolhardy. So when I see candidates running for office like Mike Duggan and Perry Johnson, and good Lord, Perry, please stop putting your face so far up in the camera. It's not a good look. I can tell you got dentures, and while there's nothing wrong with dentures, because look, my teeth ain't perfect. Still, man, you too damn close to the camera. That's got to stop, like right now. Please stop it. And they're talking about tax cuts. Perry's talking about he's going to find enough waste, fraud, and abuse to eliminate the state income tax. First off, that's a lie. There is not enough waste, fraud, and abuse in any governmental body to be able to pay for eliminating income tax. It's a lie, and the truth ain't in any of y'all that's ever said that. Two, all that's going to do is if you try to eliminate that, it will end up costing people more because the services that were provided by the government won't be able to be provided or provided at a limited fraction where the person will still have to pay for some of those services, and the cost for their own private dollars or private entities to provide that service is going to be higher than the government. So you're effectively eliminating a tax at the front door for a tax in the living room, the kitchen, the bathroom, the dining room, and the stairs leading upstairs to the bedrooms and the rec room. You're taxing me more because you're taking away the one at the front door, which meant I didn't have to have all these other expenses come in. So when I hear that, that's not responsible either. It's not going to help households and families have more, and it's not going to change or improve the ability for government to do the work that we need it to do. It's the wrong approach. A better approach is to be honest. We need taxes. We're not going to be able to cut taxes. And for certain income levels, we're going to have to increase taxes. Another thing to consider, because I saw that U.S. Senator Cory Booker, and I believe U.S. Senator Chris Van Hollen have also proposed changes to the federal tax code. In Senator Booker's sense, he's proposing changing the withholding deduction to a level where most people who are making less than $80,000 a year would effectively not pay any federal taxes. That's not good because, once again, that's starving. So now you're going to basically take $15,000 a year from the person that's making $70,000 a year who was making $60,000 in 1970, but you're still asking them to maintain two homes, a boat, and a college kid's tuition. That's just not going to work. That's not good governance. It's not good math. But on a different front, though, one thing that we should be doing is looking at raising how much or when the taxation for Social Security and Medicare stops. Because right now, both of those stop at a certain income level. And any income you generate over that doesn't have any tax burden paid from it towards Social Security and Medicare. If you eliminated that, Social Security and Medicare would immediately see a funding surge from the upper middle class, wealthy class, and obscenely rich. My God, I've got enough money to basically stack it up from here to Mars class to be able to make the Social Security fund and the Medicare fund solvent and extend the solvency life for at least another 50 to 70 years easily, right off the rip. So that's practical. That's logical. You want to save Social Security? That's the easiest way to do it. You want to save Medicare, that's the easiest way to do it, period. Period. So ultimately, that is the way that we need to go, is having that real conversation that taxes aren't a bad thing. Taxes provide services that can't be provided by other entities. And by eliminating that, you end up increasing the likelihood that the person will end up paying more. Now, the person that's the billionaire and the uber multimillionaire, they'll pay more, but it won't impact them the same as it'll impact somebody making $70,000 a year. And so that is the dynamic that we're facing. So to me, to the candidates that are running for office, don't run on the myth of tax cuts. When tax cuts are raised, you ask the question, well, with all these other tax cuts, have you as a person seen the amount of money in your checking and savings and other bank accounts increase from the previous month, what you had, I'll say, the first of the month in your bank account to the end of the month? And if you're not consistently seeing more money in your bank accounts, that means that tax cut wasn't for you and didn't apply to you. And then separately, talk about, like I mentioned, the school dynamic. When schools had more money, the amount of extra things you had to buy was not there. It didn't exist because they could provide those things themselves. When I was a kid in school, we didn't have to bring paper from home. They had reams of paper. When Jamil and Xavier were in school, we had to buy paper for the school. Come on now. Cutting the money going into public education didn't save us money. It just increased the money we had to spend out. And we didn't see any real net benefit of that lack of quote unquote that supposed tax cut. It just didn't happen. And so, if we're going to be real, we're going to have to be honest about what we need government to do and how it needs to be funded. And that's from traditional government services, that's public safety, that is social related services, that's education. And you can't do it with this false tax cut mythology. That doesn't work. It's not going to work. Try a different message, try a different approach. So ultimately, if you're interested in more, not only content like this, but you want to see what we are able to do at the Future Today and Tomorrow to help you with connecting with the voters when it comes to these sorts of messaging frameworks, my email and a link to our website and a link to our contribution page will be in the text that goes along with this video and podcast, kind of like in the header or the subject of what I'm talking about. So please visit us at www.futurepack.today. The website's going through some upgrades and changes, so it'll take a little bit of time to get it to where it's back to normal, but we're working on it. And follow us on our different social media related platforms. We're here to be of not just a help, but we're here to help hopefully shift the conversations in the right way. And one of the right ways of shifting the conversation, taxes are necessary, tax cuts are fantasy, and anyone saying that they are transformative is a lie and the truth ain't in them. So thank you, Eric Foster, co-founder of the Future Today and Tomorrow Super PAC. Have a blessed evening and a blessed weekend. Go green, go white.